Well, everybody, it is officially the holiday season. The fall is over. 2021 is pretty much done, but we have to enjoy the most wonderful time of the year first before we call it a new year. So, why not have the best person to bring in the holiday joy and to get things rolling once again? Ryan Page, this is your 12th appearance on the show. I looked it up today.
Um,
What's up, Brian?
Actually, I have to correct you. I'm Ryan Page Freedom. So we'll have to fix that. We'll go back and we'll add it in post. But yeah,
Okay, Riot Page Freedom. As we
we
could
don't have to continue that. We don't have to keep the bit going. But
you know what? We'll leave this first tweet cap as a mystery. You find out what
okay,
that means. But it has to do with an NBA player. And
it does.
and it's somebody who, actually no, because it's funny. No, it's not funny, it's legitimate. But because
It
this
is. Oh,
player
it's
is
very.
making it, we'll start with the first tweet cap story and this just nice relaxing, you know, right as what, our first Hanukkah show. This is the first night of Hanukkah. So,
It
as
is.
this airs the second night, it will be the second night. So, happy Hanukkah to all those who celebrate. But as this mixture of tweet cap and fun stories that I literally just filed up and seen. You know what? Why don't we just talk and make this well, I guess every single podcast is an improvisation, but we're just
In its
trying
own
things
way.
different. This is just a nice sit back and relax, tweet cap and casual speaking, as most productive conversations are. We're going to be productive with it. But anyways, the first story here in this tweet cap that it was announced today that NBA player Anez Cantor is officially going to be a U.S. citizen. And with that, he's legally changing his surname to Freedom. So it will be Anez
Correct.
Cantor Freedom. And
Hmm.
this is as a result also of his activism towards the Nike Corp organization, who he has made allegations of them going as far as to put people in slavery to put their clothing out to the world. And he has gone as far as to call out LeBron James, aka one of Nike's biggest names, to acknowledge this fact or fiction or whatever you want to dissect, however you want to dissect it. But he is making a legit claim. There have been plenty of examples of this actually happen, the quote unquote sweatshops to produce the great Nike apparel. So what's that
Yep.
story, Ryan? Do you
Well, I
think
mean,
one Inez?
you hit it on the head.
What do you
Uh,
think? Like, what do you think? What comes to
I
mind with
mean,
this story?
yeah, the name change a little silly. It reminds me of the Meta World Peace to Ron Artest, or rather Ron Artest to Meta World Peace name change, also basketball. Um, so again, the name change is a little silly, but especially because I mean, freedom is not even the best like American name you could add. I mean, Liberty sounds more like a name than freedom. But anyway, point being, or independence. But he was not wrong necessarily about some of the points he's making in terms of obviously in China in particular. I believe that seems to be where most his criticism is centered.
Yes.
Nike's utilizing some of the rules over there to make cheaper products and skirt around some pretty sticky situations that they would run into here. And he's not wrong that the NBA has been pretty much silent on that because they would like to continue to do business in China, and they are not the only ones who want to do business in China. I mean, we've seen Marvel. Marvel has done some really wacky things. Obviously, this is not quite the same because it's not about working conditions. They don't film in China, but they've done some pretty wacky things with their movies and with like the covers of their movies
Yeah.
to get played. I mean, I think there's frankly a case to be made that Marvel movies in China are almost sometimes different movies. I'm sure they come to the same general conclusion,
Yeah.
but a lot of what happens
Superhero
in the middle is
saves.
not the same, right?
Yeah.
Because they're not. It's not allowed over there. So again, not the only company that is working or trying to keep a good relationship with China. However, again, Nike is actually producing product over there. which means it's not just about, appeasing certain rules and regulations. It's also about workers and human beings not being compensated fairly or at all in some cases, when you really look at how much they're doing and how much time they're putting in and what they're getting out of it.
Hmm.
So yeah, and then again, and that's just the generic stuff. Like you mentioned something about like actual legitimate internment. I
Yeah.
know about that, but I can't say it would surprise me, but I don't know about it, so I won't speak to it.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I'm just repeating
overall,
what
I think
Anez is saying.
yeah, overall, I think obviously he feels strongly about it, which is great. Um, we see now that a lot of athletes are using their platform, uh, and I think it's actually brave of him in its own way.
Yeah, he's still
Right
on an
now,
NBA team. He's on the Celtics.
well, yeah, and right now we have a lot of athletes who are, and this is not critiquing the athletes at all, or critiquing their actual passion for these issues. But most people are not taking a particularly bold stance in regards to their own company. Obviously, still bold stance, to fight for police reform or things like that
Hmm.
um, in the broader country. But the NBA, the NFL, the MLB, to various extents, have all been pretty good about supporting athletes while they do this, and about giving athletes the chance to do this. Um, some more than others. The NBA, I think, happens to be very good at it. NFL, again, took them a bit to come around to some of it, but in all, these organizations are allowing athletes to speak on behalf of these issues. But this one is something that the NBA is also doing. He's not just speaking against the treatment of workers in China. He's saying directly, why are Nike and the NBA doing business with a country that does this? So he's critiquing his boss. Uh,
Yeah.
whereas there people are usually critiquing an issue, and again with the support of their boss, which is again very important. It moves the conversation forward, and obviously not every issue is going to be directly related to professional sports, but in this particular case, he's speaking against his boss. So obviously he doesn't have their permission. They don't support him in terms of his beliefs. You're never going to get the NBA to say, yeah, you're right. Whereas the NBA will very easily, stand with players who say something, especially when the players aren't getting granular, like police reform in
Yep.
this country. That's a little different, but racial equity, equality, all that stuff, those buzzwords that again need to be paired with action. But those buzzwords, the NBA will stand behind those every day because it's easy enough for them to do without worrying about offending too many people.
And
But
the
this
financial
is
blowback.
right. Yeah. Well, that's what I mean. When I say offending people, I mean losing money because they don't actually care if people are offended. They care about losing money. They're a business. But in this case, their business practices are being called out by one of their more prominent players.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. Again, it's interesting to look at. We have a lot of activism in sports right now, but not a lot of it aimed at the actual organization anymore. I mean, last time they had this, I think, was like Colin Kaepernick, and even he didn't start
Yeah,
that
for
way. It's
active players, definitely. This is a full-time
right.
active player on the Celtics. A lot of people have protested after their careers, like like the NFL and concussions, but that was after their career.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, and even in the Kaepernick case, he wasn't initially protesting the NFL at all. It was initially about police
Yeah.
brutality, and then the NFL punished him, and then it became about them. That was their own fault. If they didn't say anything, it wouldn't have mattered. No, they would have never gotten into any trouble because that's not what he was talking about initially. It became about that, and it became when it went a little bit wider. It became in solidarity with him against the NFL's, forcing everyone to stand when they wanted to kneel. So it kind of got like a double meaning at that point. But yeah, it's just interesting again to see. We have a lot of activism, so it shouldn't be surprising. But to see it directed at, and I know it's at Nike too, which is not the NBA. There are other shoes, but it is also the NBA because the critique of LeBron James has been dual like it's been on two sides. It's been on obviously working with Nike, but also it's been on, his role as a bit of an ambassador in in basketball over in Asia, in Asian countries. And this started back when, like, during the Hong Kong freedom protests. LeBron James kind of got marred in that as well, because he was working with the NBA to try and build bridges into a market over there. So it's interesting to see, how it ends up going. The freedom thing, again, that's silly. He doesn't need to change his name to Freedom to do what he's doing, I don't think. And so I think, in fairness, I don't think he changed his name because of that. I think he is honestly just genuinely excited that he's going to be an American citizen on, let's
Yeah,
say,
as he
Monday.
should.
So, yeah, I mean, it seems genuine, but it also seems, again, a little silly.
Well, yeah.
But hey, you know what? It's his name. It's not my name. My name could be silly too.
I think people love the page name. It's iconic. And
Oh, sure.
yeah, well, I think again with Anez, it's power two. I don't think he really isn't somebody doing it for clout. He's has been vocal in the past. When he was on the Knicks, remember he went against the Turkish government where he's from, and I still think to this day he's not welcomed, and he's been threatened before if he comes back. And that's who he is. This guy will be, I wouldn't say he's necessarily controversial, he says, but he's definitely is using his platform for the good. And this will be an awesome 30 for 30 in 10 years. And I guess we're going to just to see down the line if anybody will join him on the stand. I doubt LeBron will say anything. You know how much the NBA will protect LeBron's name and likeness. And I think he tries to stay away. I mean, look, he got suspended in that fight where he blatantly elbowed somebody in the eye. He got suspended 1 game, and the guy he elbowed got suspended 2 games. So I think he wants to make sure he still has that type of clout to pull that off.
My thing with this though is that I won't necessarily blame LeBron James either. Think about it this way: if your employer gives you a task, you can't say no. I mean, you would love to think that if we had a ridiculous task given to us, that we would all say no, take this job. But I mean, both of us have our own, work. Our own work lives.
Yeah.
And it's hard, by the way. I mean, again, I think LeBron could recover personally, but it's hard to have your employer, especially an employer that's giving you a big responsibility, tell you to do something and just tell them no. It is. And I understand it feels like it's, an entire global way, because it is. It's very hard to ignore domestic issues, especially domestic issues that are affecting people, within your own communities or within like your neighborhoods, your state, your city, whatever it may be. Like, it's harder to tell those people that you meet and you see and that I'll do whatever my company asks because I need the money. You see these people all the time. They maybe they raised you, maybe they're currently raising or helping to raise your family, and instill values in them. So it's different. No, and part of that might be because Anez Cantor is a international player, so there might just be a little bit more of an international kind of feel to him. Maybe he feels the plight of folks that are not from his neck of the woods, for lack of a better term, because he's been that person. He's had to travel around the world for work, and he just has a more global understanding. Again, I'm not trying to give him too much credit, because maybe he just really liked the name Freedom, and maybe he's not all that bright. I have no idea. I don't know anything other than he changed his name to Freedom and he plays for the Celtics now. That's literally what I know about him. So I don't want to pretend like he's some revolutionary global thinker necessarily, but it's something to think about. Because again, I mean, we do see so many players standing up for causes, and this is never one of them.
Right. Well,
it just isn't. So clearly there's a difference, and it's not that, he is more or less genuine, right? Because I believe most of, if not all of, what we're seeing is genuine from athletes. Maybe not all of. I think there's some that are kind of just riding along because it's what they're supposed to do at this point. But I would say most, if not all, are doing it because they genuinely do think that they can make a difference and they can actually improve or help.
I think so too. I think so too.
So I don't know, but it is interesting that no one seems to pick that one.
Well, we definitely support Anez on all his endeavors and any athlete who has a strong passion to make a change. And yeah, we will see how these stories unfold and the changes that take place. Speaking of changes, Ryan, there's this band named the Beatles. Heard of them? They've been around for a very long time. And
they can't spell.
The Beatles, Peter Jackson and the Beatles released a documentary on Disney Plus, The Beatles Get Back, which documents them recording their final album, the Let It Be album, in early 1969 into 1970. This, how this movie's a big hit? It is three-hour episodes of them of them recording and chronologizing. That's the word, right? Chronologizing?
Yeah, that's a word.
Exactly. They are chronologizing.
Though, I think is the right word. But
anyways, this is an amazing documentary that's out now on Disney Plus that shows them, again, creating material from the get-go. It's three-hour episodes of seeing the Fab Four and John Lennon, George Harrison, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr. With the additions of Billy Preston on the keyboards, you get to see Yoko Ono hanging out and Linda McCartney, and you get to see George R.R. Martin producing. And yeah, you pretty much for 9 hours just sit there and watch the Beatles create content, for lack of a better word. And this is really revitalizing a newfound love of the Beatles. Over the past weekend, 5 of the Beatles albums are now back on the iTunes top 100 lists.
I didn't know that.
Disney hasn't released the exact numbers yet. There's, as we're recording this, they're still waiting for those weekend numbers, but the Beatles are getting revitalized. And yeah, the consensus of Rotten Tomatoes for this doc, it may be too much of a good thing for some viewers, but the Beatles Get Back offers a thrilling, immersive look at the band's creative process. Like I said, you get to see them create the Let It Be album. You get to see them do the infamous final concert on top of the Apple Studios. And then you also see how their final days as a band before they went their separate ways. But Ryan, how about this? We're not talking about the Adele album this weekend. We're not talking about Migos and Kanye or Drake.
I don't think we've talked about Migos and Kanye in like 2 years.
Right. But hey, bottom line, the biggest thing in music right now is the Beatles. And first, have you seen the doc at all?
No, I haven't seen it yet. It just came out this week, though, right?
Yes, this weekend. I've seen the first 2 episodes out of 3. And I have to say, Ryan, for a doc where I'm not spoiling anything, all it is just them literally creating. There's no interviews. There's no retrospectives, except in the very beginning. They do a brief history of the Beatles up until that point. But you're literally a fly on the wall, and you're just watching, arguably the greatest, most successful music act ever, just making music. And it's just so fascinating. And sure, 3 hours is a long time for episodes for anything. I mean, 3 hours. But, it really does fly by. And I say this in the most respectful way possible. This is going to be probably the best background movie ever. Literally, this is the perfect thing to put in the background while you do your thing. And it's just literally them making music. I mean, of course, you have things like George Harrison briefly left. They came back. You see them, creating all these ideas. But this is just a really fascinating doc that really breaks myths too. And I think after somebody sees this, you always heard rumors of, wow, their last um their breakup was pretty awful and tense, but
Right.
it really, at least for what we see, it really wasn't. It's just sometimes I think when you watch 3-4 geniuses go at it, and then you realize that wow, they really have the exact same work ethic as a lot of other hardworking people. It goes to show you that you can pull off a lot of great things, and also shows you that though some of us are different, we're all the same too. But seriously, what a great documentary, Ryan. And there was over 150 hours of footage, and they restored it to make it look like you and me talking in the quality that they were able to pull it off. But like, what are you
Well,
thinking
yeah, that's
about
what I
this,
think is so
Doc?
cool about it.
Do you plan on watching it eventually?
Yeah, of course. What I think is so cool about it is how the footage is so old, and yet everything that they've released for it has looked new. It's looked good, and it's been clear. And I think that that's probably what's most interesting to me is that they were able to basically revive this footage. And I don't believe they really used the footage much
No.
when it first was filmed. I think this is almost like they just had it around and decided to give it a new look and re-release something that had been filmed for God only knows what reason.
Right.
But yeah, no, it looks really good. I didn't realize that the Beatles were trending, although I'm looking now and Paul McCartney is trending specifically, so that
Yeah.
could be.
And I
And I just
saw
checked, he doesn't appear to have died, which I know is really
good.
horrible to say, but we can all agree when you look on Twitter and a name is trending, just a name, that there's at least a 30% chance that that's what happened.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but it doesn't appear that that's the case. I think it's just based on the movie.
But yeah, and I see also Amazon. Their album's going like crazy. Third hot um the Super Ducks Let It Be is the 55th most sold album on Amazon now, and Abbey Road is at number 3. So people are having Beatlemania again. I wonder if you're Paul McCartney and Ringo watching this. Like, I wonder, do you think they remember it the same way it's being portrayed?
I'm sure they don't,
Well,
because I
it's
think
52 years ago.
one thing we can't under underestimate is that they don't like each other, or at least they didn't end up liking each other. The
Mhm.
Beatles didn't. And I'm sure that that's not really captured very much in the movie. I'm sure this is a come together, not to use kind of a pun, um, for the Beatles and Beatles fans to say, look at the band that you love doing their thing. And I'm sure that's all true, and they did actually, of course, do that. But um, the kind of separation the Beatles had, and then all of I believe there was a lot of like litigation as to who owned the songs, too. Like that doesn't just happen out of nowhere. That's not
Yeah.
something that can appear in a vacuum. So I would say very close to when they obviously they got big when they got big, and that's different. But probably not too far after they got big, it went to their heads, and it started to slowly tear apart the Beatles.
Yeah,
Um,
they
and
decided
so
to stop
this
touring at one point, and they just
right.
were tired of
So
that, and.
at this by this point in time, the Beatles would have already been feeling that animosity, I think, to some
Yeah.
degree anyway. And I doubt that that'll be shown very prominently in the movie, but I don't know, maybe.
Oh, you'd be surprised. I think, you do see them getting on each other's nerves. Like John Lennon was late a lot. Oh, it's always funny. I
Right,
always
but
saw,
getting on, when you're a brand that's that big, someone getting on your nerves because they're a little bit late is not going to break up the band. You're not going to put millions of dollars in the trash bin
yeah.
because somebody was a little bit late too many times. It's deeper than that. It's about who. I mean, I actually heard an argument a long time ago talking about whose band is the Beatles, and I won't tell you who did it or where they came up with it. That's not relevant. But like, that's the question that basically broke up the Beatles. Honestly, I mean, yeah, they've kind of separated before, but they separated because every single person in the Beatles, with the exception of maybe one, um, felt that the Beatles was their band and that they were the Beatles. And I think ultimately all of them were wrong. The Beatles were not any one person. That's not to say that they didn't all go on to have their own successes. And I mean, in particular, Paul McCartney and John Lennon were both very big stars on their own. Neither one of them was going to do that without the Beatles.
Yeah.
And neither one of them was ever considered the Beatles while they did it. The Beatles was, which doesn't happen a lot. Like, I think about like Justin Timberlake and NSYNC. We can pretty much no, seriously. Not that I'm comparing the Beatles and NSYNC. I'm not.
No, I
But
know what you mean,
they're a
but
more modern example for young folk. They're a more modern example like us, right?
yeah.
So I think everyone can pretty safely say now that, but yes, Justin Timberlake is now his own thing. But when you think of NSYNC, you still think of Justin Timberlake.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, he's his own star, sure, but he never fully removed himself from that context, and that group never fully removed him from the group. He's always what people think about when they think about that group. And yeah, I mean, you do physically think of the name Paul McCartney when you think of the Beatles, but you can't just think of Paul McCartney. You also have to think of George Harrison, John Lennon, and Ringo Starr. You have to think of all four of them. And that
Right.
doesn't happen that often. Usually when people leave and become famous, and again, I would say all of them were able to maintain some level of fame. And I mean, three of the four of them I thought were actually relatively very famous
Yeah, right.
musicians in their own right. Yeah. I think George Harrison, John Lennon, and Paul McCartney all ended up having really very good solo careers. But you can think about John Lennon without the Beatles. You could think about Paul McCartney without the Beatles, but you cannot think about the Beatles without either of them. There's just no context in when it exists. So it's just, to me, I feel like all four of them were the Beatles. But anyway, now we're getting into like a weird territory because now we've moved on to the question of who is the Beatles. But I do, like I said, because of that, I mean, because of how much that brand is worth, I just don't see how they couldn't have been like low key hating one another throughout the
Oh, for
entirety
sure.
of the cameras rolling. And again, it'd be interesting to see exactly, like I said, is it just kind of, little snipes here and there because someone is late, or is it actually like for real? Are they mad at each other? Because I would think that in real life, if you asked Paul McCartney about that time, he would talk about how angry everybody was. I would think, unless he was promoting the movie or whatever, and he may very well might. But if he was being honest, I think he would remember mostly how angry the entire Beatles organization was while trying to make that album.
Yeah, and like I said, I seen the first two episodes out of the three.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think it's fair to show it. Did I personally see like an Outlast like reality TV show
Well,
fight?
we'll
No,
not do
but
that. I mean,
you
this
saw what
isn't
you
the
saw
Real
in the
Housewives
studio.
of.
I'll say that you saw what you saw in the studio in the rehearsal space,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that was a fair portrayal. Whether if they had their beef outside of it, but when they're in that moment creating together, it
They're
really
working.
is fascinating. And
Yeah.
you literally just watch people work, but yet it's the Beatles. And I will say one
But yet
thing.
it's the Beatles.
One thing this doc shows, and one thing that I thought was cool, if you don't mind me saying, it's not that much of a
Go
spoiler,
for it.
but Yoko Ono, she literally just sat there. At least the sessions I saw, she just sat there. The way people talk, like Yoko broke up the Beatles, that's always been a myth in music, right? But
I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's a myth in terms of she was maybe part of John Lennon's thought process in going solo.
she said in
But
the
no, I
back of
don't
the,
think she
you don't
was.
need these
Yeah, I
guys.
don't think she was like. I don't think she was like, leave the Beatles, break the Beatles. Like, I don't think that's accurate. But I do think, I'm sure that as by the way, they were partners, right? So
Yeah.
you would hope. Imagine, if he was like, I think I can do this on my own. She's like, oh, absolutely not. Like, that would be horrible. That's not what you want your partner to say. You want your partner to be like, yeah, I think so too, or try to very, very discreetly push you away from it. But yeah, so I would be surprised if he came up to her, and we saw how it turned out. It did work. So the fact is, if he went to her and was like, yeah, I can do this on my own, shocked if she was like, no, stay with the Beatles. You know what I mean? Like, he
Right.
could. He wasn't wrong. No, he was right when he made the decision. It's
Uh,
not, you know what I mean?
right. Another thing that I thought it was funny when I just talked about people being late and stuff. Again, I'm not trying to. We're not comparing they're on their own planet. But when I saw this, I thought of the Black Eyed Peas. Like, there's obviously 4 Black Eyed Peas, 2 extremely famous than the others, Fergie, will.i.am, and I can't even tell you the other 2 people names. But there's a scene where
I'm
George
right now.
where George and Ringo Starr were on time and just waiting for Paul and John. I just found that funny for dynamic wise and how it wound up becoming late. You know what I mean?
They're the George and Ringo are the ones who had to show up on time still. And the others didn't have to.
And then the other thing about George Harrison, I think this movie really shows that he was the most underappreciated musician ever. Like, he really, when he leaves the Beatles, you kind of understand, like, this guy was like a bench player on a basketball team. He's like a James Harden when he was sitting on the Thunder when there was Russ and KD running the Thunder, and George Harrison's James Harden.
Real quick, just for some information, the Black Eyed Peas, they have a new lineup.
Since when?
They exist without Fergie. Black Eyed Peas perform at the O2 Apollo, Manchester, November 2018. From left, there's Apple the App. Sure. APL.de.ap. Taboo, he's on the, what is it? He does the mixing or whatever. He's like the DJ. I think he's been there the whole time.
Yeah.
will.i.am.
Okay.
And J. Ray Soul, who I believe is the new
Fergie
person, the new Fergie. Let me see here. Yes, J. Ray Soul is the new female vocal part.
Oh, well, good for her. And I had no idea this was a thing, but the show must go on with the Black Eyed Peas. And just
Kim Hill was also Fergie wasn't even the original vocalist. That's crazy.
They were okay. See, they've been through this before.
Kim Hill was the original vocalist from 1995 to 2000. And then Fergie was the vocalist from 2002 to 2016. And then in 2018, J. Ray Soul took over as the vocalist. The rest of the crew has been there since 1995. So will.i.am, Apple the Apples, and Taboo. Yes. Will, the Apples, and Taboo have all been there since 1995. And will.i.am is credited as the piano player.
Okay, then.
Great. Because when I think of will.i.am, I think of piano as well. That's a joke.
Well, shouts to the Black Eyed Peas. And, I hope they make a great comeback like ABBA. But ABBA broke up again. So much for 40-year.
Well, that was, they came back and then didn't do anything. They were like, we're back, but we hate each other and we're gone now.
Yeah, they broke up again. But see, no matter who you are, ABBA, the Beatles, at least Black Eyed Peas stays. They
had an album in 2020.
Oh, well,
2020, June 19th, 2020.
I missed that
Epic
one.
Records. It was featuring acts such as Shakira, J Balvin, Nicki Jam, Tyga, and French Montana.
Well, somebody messed up in the marketing department. I didn't hear about this, but
DJ Snake was the producer. One of them, man. One of the more famous ones.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, well,
interesting.
Shouts to music, always making us happy. And Ryan, once you see the Beatles doc, definitely let me know what you think, and we can continue this when we see all the parts. But bottom line, even though it's really long episodes, it's just a great watch, awesome background watch, and yeah, it's just cool. You just see the 4 of them. What are we gonna sing today? I've been working on this, and he plays "Let It Be." What do you think?
And it's Let It Be, yeah. I would love to hear the one that's not. So he plays, like something ridiculous, like the Apple Orchard Polka. I don't know. Just a song that didn't make it, a song that nobody knows. I would love to hear that happen. Where he's like, here's what I got. and then they play through it and be like, "Oh, that was trash,"
Yeah,
and then that's it. That's the end. We never hear that Beatles song ever.
you will see some of
They play
those
it on
scenes.
yeah, they play it one time, and then no one ever heard of it ever again. That would be very cool to see. So I hope I do get to see some of that.
Yeah,
Like they're just like, nope, this is not us, and just like that, a song is no longer a Beatles song. It goes from a Beatles song to nothing in the course of an afternoon.
And again, the last part too, also the George Harrison, so underappreciative, and you'll see in that doc. And man, that he might have been the secret weapon, really. Even if he was the quiet one, that guy had some
Yeah,
amazing
well, he
stuff.
was. I mean, he ended up getting sick. He was a big star in his own too.
Oh yeah,
Well, he was My Guitar Gently Weeps. He wrote that one. So yeah, he's a big deal.
definitely. And
I mean, he's a Beatle, so they're always going to be a little bit of a big deal. But
bragging rights, bragging rights. Well, on to other things. So, Ryan, I wanted to bring this up to you. I just, like I said, we're not gonna do the entire bracket. Maybe I'll name you these things. They're hilarious naming. But I got this from the Barstool movie podcast, Lights Camera Barstool.
Okay.
And they made a you don't have to go, like I said, maybe we could come up with a final four from this, or just
All right.
we could just do two. But it was the biggest weirdos bracket. They just
In movies?
in the world, like
Okay.
number one seed weirdo Mark Zuckerberg versus astrology people. Who do you think would win in biggest weirdo?
Astrology people?
Like the people really obsessed with it.
Yeah, they'd get destroyed by the sheer weirdness that is Mark Zuckerberg. I mean, he's clearly the number one seed, and it's not even close. He's clearly the number one seed.
This the people are like, so what are you a Capricorn? Like, no, I'm an Aries. I can't be around you. I can't be around you. You got bad energy.
Yeah, but Mark Zuckerberg's trying to invent a universe.
The metaverse.
And he's doing it simply probably because people were mean to him in this one, frankly. So he's like, well, I can't, if people won't like me out here, I'm going to make a make-believe one, and everyone's going to love me in there.
And you know what was funny about that? You know this?
I'm going to look this up right now.
I had a debate with people about the movie The Social Network, and they said that movie sucked. I'm like, what?
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Mark Zuckerberg might suck, and I really think they have his animosity to him to think the movie's bad. But this is a good movie. And
no, it's a great movie.
And I really think it's because
good.
Oh yeah, how do you make court litigation seem tense and cool? Or rowing.
You have to hire Sorkin.
Literally. Oh man. So
all right, I'm still looking this up now.
While you look that up, the next matchup is EDM superfans and couples versus Tim Burton. Who's weirder?
EDM superfans
and couples.
Or Tim Burton?
Yeah, who's weirder?
I'm going with the EDM superfan couples. I didn't even know that was a thing. So there's people
superfans and couples, both superfans and couples.
So they're saying there's people whose entire romantic relationship is based around their shared love of EDM.
That could be one. People with glow stick moments of the day.
Glow stick moments of the day. You just said.
Yeah, I heard that before.
Okay, yeah, we'll go with. I'll keep them. I mean, Tim Burton, he's odd. I won't pretend he's not, but I mean, I think he's doing it for, money,
right,
and whatnot.
Who's weirder here?
Doing it as part of brand.
Yeah. Who's weirder here? I got this one. Next one. Who's weirder this matchup? Beer snobs and IPA guys, or niche porn Reddit moderators? So these are people on Pornhub who actually moderate porn.
No, yeah, but these are on Reddit.
Yeah, on Reddit.
So I mean, Reddit. Everything exists on Reddit. Just everything. Think about it. It's there, and somebody is responsible for moderating that. Because if it exists, that means someone's in charge. That is how Reddit works. So maybe not all of them, right? Maybe there's some normal ones who just want to help the world out with their needs, but there's some really weird ones, I'm sure, and someone is in charge of the really weird ones. So I'm gonna go with the moderators on that one. I mean, listen, there's people who are way too into beer, but I think they're more slightly annoying than they are biggest weirdos. Like the people who really love IPAs, the main problem is that they keep telling you how much they enjoy IPAs. No one is upset with someone for being like, yeah, I love a good IPA. No one's like, oh, that's weird. You drink an IPA. What's weird is the fact that you feel the need to tell everyone.
Oh, so hoppy
But
and so much texture. Blah blah blah.
right, yeah. And, oh, yeah, that's your word. You try and describe why. Try and say, well, here's what I taste when I drink a beer, and this must be what you're missing. So again, they're more annoying, I think, than they are biggest weirdo material, right? But the people who are into this really niche stuff, some of them don't come out of their hidey holes ever. It's not like you'll know just seeing them on the street, but if you find out, you're in for a shock.
The next one here is Jared Leto or people who drink soda for breakfast. Who's weirder?
I want to hear your answer first.
Well, the thing is, especially I notice this a lot in New York, that people really will do anything to get their caffeine. Not saying New Yorkers drink soda for breakfast, but I mean, there are plenty of other options out there, but I understand too, some people really need that caffeine boost one way or the other. And Jared Leto, though he's really strange, that dude, if you're as talented as Jared Leto, you got to have some nuance to yourself. I mean, the major rock stars sold like 30 million records, Oscar-winning actor, and his roles are really freaking strange and really out there sometimes, whether you're the Joker and a not so good Joker.
Joker was trash. So I'm cutting in now. I'm going to defend the soda in the morning people. That's not weird. Or it's no weirder than drinking coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
I drink coffee in the morning, by the way. I'm not a soda in the morning person. That being said, I have gotten on a train. I've been running late and I haven't been able to bring my coffee or grab a coffee with me. And I grab a Diet Coke from the machine.
Yeah.
In my office. Now, it's not my preference. I don't prefer it. It's too carbonated and I don't like that in the morning, but there's no real difference between drinking. I mean, they're both going to stain and destroy your teeth. Neither one of them is great for you. Both of them are, feeding an addiction to caffeine. So there's no difference. So I'm going to go a step further and say that they're not weird. They're just, again, maybe they're lazy and they don't want to make their own coffee in the morning. But they're not weird. And I mean, Jared Leto's not particularly weird to me either. But yeah. I mean, if you have to compare the two, it's got to be Jared Leto, right?
I would say
if you're comparing the two, it's got to be him. But again, I don't think I think everyone we've mentioned before this point is weirder than Jared Leto, and that includes astrology people and Tim Burton. Even
we have quite the range.
The last two are weirder than Jared Leto. He's just, again, he's a bit odd, but whatever.
Yeah,
but he's just, unfortunately, he has a really, really tough matchup there because to me personally, soda and coffee, they're almost the same so drinking one versus the other in the morning doesn't really make a difference.
Exactly. And like I said, you need to have something to you to be Jared Leto and that life he lives. And he's a talented man. I love that guy. The other ones, we have just a few more and then we'll wrap it up. Paintball adults or airsoft adults? Who's weirder? I never really thought these were weird people. But
so it depends what you mean by it. Doesn't actually. The answer is airsoft. You can go to a paintball place like with like your kids, or maybe some of your buddies.
Yeah, bachelor party.
And you don't own the equipment, right? You show up, you put on the thing. Maybe you brought a dirty hoodie because you're going to get some paint on you. You run through the course and you're, boom, boom, you're done in a day. And I guess the people who take that too far would be considered pretty weird. The people like who buy their own paintballs and like
they are
a little weird. But there's no way There's no way beyond the age of 15 or 16 years old to do airsoft and not look strange. Even if you haven't done it in like a decade. Even if you stopped and then one time you have one friend who says, "Let's do some airsoft." As soon as you say yes, it's officially weird. I don't know how you could do airsoft not weird.
And some of those,
Because
they go like hardcore with some of these guns. They get
right.
AR-15
And so
rifle as
yeah.
airsoft.
Well, yeah. Well, so there's not a lot of places that I know of anyway that you can go and like rent all of the airsoft stuff, and that there's a big community of people you can like do it with. Like I
Yeah.
said, you could show up to a paintball place with like 3 people and get put in someone else's group, and that is a little weird because now you're going to be shooting strangers. But it exists. There's enough groups of like 3 that you get like a 6-on-6 going. You know what I mean? In airsoft, I don't think that exists. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have a viewer who's like, actually, airsoft is the highest form of simulated combat,
Here come
and
the
they have all these
letters.
reasons. Right, here come the emails, exactly, the angry emails. But I just don't think anyone who has finished puberty can do airsoft without looking strange. And therefore, people obsessed with airsoft, adults obsessed with airsoft, would have to be stranger than adults obsessed with paintball. Because again, if you're obsessed with anything, not a great look for you. But at least there's a normal way to do paintball. Like every couple years, you can find yourself on a paintball course. I don't see how you can find yourself doing airsoft every 5 years, even. Like
Yeah.
what in your life created the scenario where you shoot your buddies with little plastic pellets
Yeah.
over and over again, multiple times? You hate to buy it yourself. Like it's just, again, to me, being obsessed with either one is, I guess, a little strange. Obviously, hence why they both made the bracket. But at least there's a normal version of paintball. I just don't know how you do airsoft if you're an adult without looking at least a little strange while you're doing it.
Yeah. It goes to show who wants it more, and then use that.
Who wants it more? Now I can see Matt being obsessed with airsoft. Be like, you gotta want
I don't know. Use your
it. You gotta
passion for
want it.
other things, I guess. It's
Hey,
airsoft
you use your
weirdos.
passion for airsoft. Don't let me tell you what to do. But you asked, and so I answered. Those are the top 4 there.
Yes. We actually got 3 more matchups, and then that's it. Then we could
All right,
pick.
let's hear it.
Then we could just pick from those. Who do you think is the
Our
weirdest of them
number.
all?
Okay.
And internet.
A weird battle royale.
Who's gonna win? Who's weirder? Internet magicians or Chris Angel? I think internet magicians are awesome. I get Chris Angel's just a straight, scary looking dude. I think
They're
internet.
both weird, but this is almost like the reverse of the Jared Leto bit. I think both of them are weird in their own way, and because they're matched up together, it's hard to pick.
Yeah.
I think both of them are weirder than most of what we've talked about. Because but at the same time, since they're together and they are both doing magic, Chris Angel just gets to
Technically,
blow stuff up.
yeah.
Technically, well, yeah, some internet magicians are not doing magic, but I'll say that there's a cool factor to Chris Angel. I actually like magic shows.
Yeah, me
There's this
too.
guy who came to Anez school I went to. I'm wearing the shirt. And we saw him twice because we had like it was. No, don't be wrong. We had like $5 tickets because we were students. That's why we did. That's why I went the first time, I should say. And the second time when we found out, like, it was our freshman year, and then our senior year he came back. I was like, well, that's kind of cool. We saw him our first year.
Mhm.
It was one of the first shows we saw, so we're gonna see him now again. But he was cool. Like, I had a fun time. But again, there was some like production value to that. And
Yeah.
Chris has production value. So I'm gonna say they're both weirdos because they're inherently weird because they're performing magic, which is just a weird thing to get into, right? It's also a hard thing to get into. So I'm not insulting magicians. I'm just saying it's a weird hobby. So if they're both doing the same weird hobby, at least Chris Angel's getting paid a lot for it and has
he's a
like big
household name.
productions, right? He's got the big production value and everybody knows who he is. If you're just, magic user 543 on YouTube, you're Chris Angel without any of the stuff that makes Chris Angel cool. Yeah. Keep working at it, and you could be David Blaine, which is like Chris
You got
Angel,
it.
but without any of the production value.
And the celebrity friends.
Yeah.
So this one we're gonna split up because these, like I said, some of these matchups are too similar. These last four are too similar. I just want to change. It's my podcast, so I'm gonna do it. So who's weirder, Ryan? Reptile owners or wrestlers? Wrestlers aren't weird.
They are. That's very weird. Oh man. God, this is a really tough one.
I've met some strange reptile owners, specifically them
No
owning
matter who
reptiles.
this means Jake the Snake Roberts is is king of this bracket. He's both.
He's
right?
represented. Yeah.
So we're gonna take him out of this equation because he puts the scales too much on both sides. I might almost have to go with the same. No, because here's the thing. You just said wrestlers. I mean, do you mean pro wrestlers like, pro wrestlers like the Olympics, or do you mean like pro wrestlers like WWE? That's what they mean.
The picture's actually Olympic wrestling or amateur wrestling is the picture they're showing.
All right. Okay. If it's amateur wrestling, then for sure the answer is reptile owners.
Those people
It's
upset.
a little more complicated. It's a little bit more complicated if you're talking about like pro wrestling or indie wrestling or whatever. But listen, amateur wrestlers they're in great physical shape. A lot of them are doing it through college. I suppose if you're like 50 and you've been finding like a community wrestling league to just grapple with people, again, since most of them are going to be high school kids, we could probably put you in the conversation as weirdo. And probably the biggest weirdo on the list. It'd definitely be that person and Mark Zuckerberg in the final, right? But I think that's not most people who are amateur wrestlers. Most amateur wrestlers do it for the appropriate amount of time. And I guess some of them maybe talk about it too much, or like they post pictures. Again, when you post too many pictures of college men in spandex on your Instagram, it is weird. But I think there's just a level of sadness if you bought a reptile. I think you're upset.
You can't really hang out with them either. A lot of reptiles, you just have to watch them.
No, you
can
hang out with an amateur wrestler. I mean, maybe don't maybe don't try and do a double leg takedown on them. But the reptiles, they don't do anything. All of them want to eat us. This is just me personally. I'm not a huge fan of reptiles. None of them wish anything but ill will toward us, meaning the actual reptiles. So to keep them locked in a cage their entire life, just waiting to break out while you're asleep, is not for me. Snakes in particular, I'm out. So I'm gonna say snake owners, and listen, now they're mad at me too, but they're weirder than amateur wrestlers.
In the final matchup, before we pick instead of a final four, we'll pick the top two out of these. Who do you think would win in the final matchup? But this one is Disney adults or feet pick guys. Who's weirder? Guys. You think so? I actually gotta go with Disney adults because listen. Here's the thing.
It's not weird.
Here's the thing. Like, if Disney, I'll watch a Disney movie. I love Disney movies. I really do.
Right.
But
that's not a Disney adult, though.
The Disney adult,
when watching a Disney movie doesn't make you a Disney adult.
Like, there are some people who really will go out of their way to,
Hold on 1 second.
E8. Like when we had our famous chemistry teacher.
Almost crushed my cat there. I apologize.
Oh, is the great Sun-Kissed okay? Okay. I will say this teacher I won't name because this is going to be mean. But remember we had a famous teacher in Norwalk High who would take months off at a time to go to Disney World?
No.
Really don't remember? No. Chemistry teacher? She yelled at me like she yelled at me.
Like we were in the same chemistry class.
Weren't we?
No, we were in the same chemistry class. Yeah.
Yeah, remember that teacher who will not name because I think this would be mean to say.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I didn't know that was happening, but yeah. If it was our
like
chemistry teacher, then yeah.
she would leave to go to Disney World for months, and she was like in her 40s and didn't have a family. Like, there's just some I just don't get it. Like, I'm down to sit in a panel of Disney adults, and you tell me if that's ignorant to go to Disney World in these prime times without a family. If instead of
I'll
going
say
to like
this.
other places, I don't know, Vegas, the Bahamas, some tropical
I'll say
island,
this
and you
actually.
go to
I
Disney
could
World
see.
where you go to get
So I
go on
I could
teacup
see.
rides and stuff.
Well, I mean, no. Don't, if you do the teacup rides, don't. But children shouldn't do the teacup rides. But I'll say this. I think that I can see the appeal, having been to Disney as a kid, in fairness.
Yeah,
But having been when I was a kid to Disney, I can see the appeal of going to Disney World one time
yeah.
without your own children to see everything. Like, take 2 weeks, one of those nice hotels, like not staying at like anything that has the ears on it. I mean, like you're staying at one of like, but I mean, some of these hotels, I have looked, by the way. Some of these hotels are like thousands of dollars a night
Is it the
in like
Grand
the middle of these
Floridian?
parks. No, that one's one of the cheaper ones.
Oh, really? I was saying Mickey
Yeah.
Mouse's
So,
clubhouse or something.
right. Well, that's that's the one you go with when you have a kid and they just want to see, Tarzan and Aladdin and Minnie or whatever. But if you go one time and you bring your A game, right? You go to every park one time and you stay at like the top of the line, like you stay in one of their private lodges
Mm-hmm.
inside one of the cool parks, then that makes sense to me. And then obviously once you have kids, if they're like, we want to go to Disney World, and whatever, go to
Of
Disney World
course.
if that's what your kid wants to do. You'd be silly to be like, no, I refuse. I'm not a Disney adult. But I
I'm
can
not
see
a
one
Disney
time.
adult.
I could see one time being like, yeah, Disney, a big Disney trip as an adult, but also still not alone. Alone is really hard. If you go by yourself
By yourself.
to anywhere, if you go to Vegas by yourself
Yeah, that's a tough one.
without a reason, that's a tough one. So the by yourself thing is hard. What I will say though is I actually don't look at Disney World or Disneyland as the barometer. My thought process is, although if you go multiple times, you can start to see it, right? My thought process would be the Disney Cruise Line, and here's why.
The
Now here's
Disney
why.
Cruise Line.
They aren't even close to the best cruise line. They're just not. There's no reason to go on a Disney cruise. Because if you're again, when you go to Disney World, of course you want to see Mickey Mouse. It's his house.
Even as a Disney
You're
World
visiting him.
adult.
He lives there. Right? Obviously that's a bit of a joke, but it does make sense. You will see the characters if you go to the Magic Kingdom. That's just that's part of what will happen while you're
As
there.
a 28-year-old.
Right, but if you're going on a cruise, you shouldn't make a decision on cruise line based on whether or not Donald Duck will be there.
You can have breakfast with him.
Right. The cruise bit is the sales point. Being on the boat and going to the islands, that's the fun part. Who's on the boat with you is not really supposed to matter. So I would say the Disney cruise, the people who exclusively cruise Disney, and again, if you go one time, if you have kids, like that's not what I'm talking about. But if you're like, my favorite cruise is Disney because we get to be with Prince Eric and Ariel on the cruise ship. You shouldn't want to be on a cruise ship with them,
There are people
in my
who have
opinion,
that thought.
as a not Disney adult. However, I'm still saying that they are not the weirdest. And remind me again who I said was the weirdest, since we talked a
Feet
lot about
pick
Disney World.
guys.
Correct.
Those are weird.
So here's the thing. With Disney cruises, at the end of the day, or Disney World, or watching Disney movies, whatever barometer. Again, I have a pretty high barometer for what I would consider a Disney adult. I think you can reasonably like Disney as an adult. It is part of almost everybody's childhood, and nostalgia alone will carry it through, right? But even if you have a really low barometer, even if you say watching Disney movies could categorize you as a Disney adult, at least when you're spending money on Disney, you're getting a decent quality movie. You're getting big rides and food. You're getting a whole cruise. At least if you're a fan of Disney, you can post those pictures online without being forcibly removed from the next family dinner. If someone found out in your family that you watched the new Disney movie versus if someone found out in your family that you pay for pictures, and you pay for pictures of other people's feet, it's not a question. You know, everyone in their heart of heart knows which they'd prefer their family found out. If you were both, if you're a Disney person who likes feet and you get caught doing one of those two things, being obsessed with Disney or liking feet, you would pay literally any sum of money for it to be the Disney bit. Because you could play that off. You can live with the Disney thing. Nobody can outlive being outed as having a foot fetish. Nobody.
It's
So
ruined careers.
I'm saying,
Except Quentin Tarantino.
Well, I'm saying that the feet thing is the weirder thing. It's the thing of the two that nobody would want to admit to.
Yeah, right.
The feet thing for that reason.
You know, I had a friend in college. He said, Matt, this guy sent me $500 just so he could see my feet. And I said, that's bullshit. And she showed me the Venmo, the requests and the sent $500 so the guy could get a foot pics. Like, God forbid if I ever get to that senile. Oh, but hey, some people love that. And you want to say, right?
$500.
Serious? No, I didn't. I don't blame her. I said you did the right thing. But damn, like, wow, there's people really out there. And by the way, to finish up the Disney result before we pick who is the number one weirdo. Urban Dictionary, Ryan. Urban Dictionary.
Okay.
They describe Disney adult as
scientifically proven then.
A millennial adult with or without kids that can't stop talking about Disney, including the movies and the parks. Even if they do have kids, they're still way more obsessed with their kids than their kids will ever be. They probably engage in casual Disney bounding and visit the theme parks at least once a year. Disney bounding.
Oh, is that Disney bounding?
Just to make sure, I'll pull that up. Disney bounding is the act of dressing up as a princess and being bound for the purpose of sexual fantasies fulfillment.
Oh,
that's what it said.
Okay. No, I don't believe that is the appropriate definition of a Disney adult. I believe Urban Dictionary is wrong.
Well,
I do not consider their definition as valid, and therefore I will not be considering it or reconsidering my previous stance.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fine. If you do that, if you dress up as Jasmine or Belle or whoever for the purposes of role playing or whatever, especially if you're bounding that person, don't do it anymore. I will defend people who like Disney up to a point, and that is well past the point.
No Disney bounding.
That is subverting childhood memories.
It
and
really
it is not okay.
By the way,
okay.
The way they finished then they said probably engaged, so not official, but they just said probably.
That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Too extreme for me. I'm not using it as my definition.
And visit the theme parks at least once a year. And they round out the definition with they are obsessed with everything Disney and probably have a Mickey Mouse bumper sticker and or tattoo. One of the most terrifyingly intense people you'll ever encounter. The sentence they use, that Disney adult over there won't shut up about theme park trivia.
Again, you can be reasonably a fan of Disney as an adult based solely on the fact that it is everyone's childhood to some degree. I'm not even going to comment on
Disney bounding
thing. It's not that is a game changer, but I don't believe it's common enough for us to consider it in this conversation. And you know what is guaranteed if you're buying pictures of feet? Gross stuff. So yeah, sure, Disney adult might have some gross stuff, but if you paid for a picture of someone else's feet, you're using them for something gross. So that's all. You know?
Yeah, that was submitted by Anna Babe Chase as the Disney.
Well, Anna,
Mm.
I have to be honest with you. I feel very bad because you clearly walked in on something you weren't supposed to say.
um,
And
can
it
I just
ruined
say
Disney for you forever.
this hilarious? Well, this other version by the Rat Man, he said, a Disney adult is an eccentric or theatrical person who's often overly positive and lacks self-awareness to know when people find themselves disruptive or annoyingly cloying. Disney adults often like to talk about how quirky and weird they are, as if they think of themselves as playing a lovable character in real life. And they said a person
Okay.
who behaves as if they are a main character in a Disney movie. And
Okay. And I could even see some of that, but again, that's still not weirder than the foot thing.
and then the disclaimer, they said Disney adults does not have to be obsessed with Disney, but the vast majority of adults who are obsessed with Disney are Disney adults. Yeah,
Okay.
these are
That
just
last bit didn't make
hilarious.
much sense. But
Disney adults,
yeah, no.
people who are
And here's the
obsessed with
thing, I'm
Disney.
not critiquing, by the way, anyone who does engage with feet. I'm just saying it's weird. Do what
Yeah.
you got to do. You're not hurting anybody. If everyone's being fairly compensated, I don't see a problem with it in that regard. But it is weird. It will remain weird whether or not I'm okay with it.
Yes, and who would you say would be your final two, and who would you pick the weirdest weirdo of them all in the
Oh man.
Barstool bracket of weirdos? For me, my final two would
All right, let's hear it.
probably, even though we keep talking about, I'm talking about the Disney, not Disney bounding adults, even though that's weird, but Disney adults who are insanely obsessed with Disney and promote some stuff. And I also find it weird, some Disney adults, they don't really keep their, the great Walt Disney accountable. He did a lot of messed up things. Not only obviously changed the world, but he had some really dark views and made some weird
Oh,
decisions.
yeah,
And
yeah,
you
had
and they
their
don't
problems
call
for
him
sure.
out. But oh well.
Well, you don't
I
have to
still
call
loved Walt
everybody out
Disney.
for dark views. That's
True.
something that we haven't really caught on yet. As a society, we have a weird middle thing where we either let everybody slide or we hold everybody accountable for everything that they've ever done, and there is a middle ground with understanding a person's pros and cons and accepting the good and condemning the bad. But we won't get into that. That's a different podcast. I'm obviously not picking. Sorry. Who's up against the Disney adults
The Disney adults,
in your scenario?
I would think the niche porn Reddit moderator, because you have to have quite a messed up mind to, always think of these weird things and sexual manners and pleasure and stuff. And
So I'll say this. Obviously, I won't be picking Disney adults because I wouldn't even have them. They lost in the first round for me to the few people. We are gonna look into a little bit of a Final Four-esque thing. They're very similar in terms of their regard. It's the Reddit moderators and it's the feet pick people. And I'm gonna side with you. I think of the two, the Reddit moderators have again volunteered
Yeah,
to
right.
administer. It's different. It's not just personal consumption. If it was just people who were on or who would search these obscure niche categories, it'd be a little different. But these are people who have searched it, have found it, enjoy it, and have agreed to administer it to other people they've never met. And again, it's not their own content necessarily. They're taking people's content and they're dispersing it amongst the world. They're basically just bureaucrats for, niche porn. So I'm going with them over the feet people. That's number one. On the other side of this, I'm thinking obviously Mark Zuckerberg is definitely got to get a shout. He's a strange man.
Can't forget him.
We can't forget him. I'm trying to think of what was one of the other really big ones that we talked about.
You talk about the
Oh
airsoft
yeah.
adults.
We talked about. I'm thinking up against Zuckerberg is probably amateur magicians, YouTube magicians. And I'm torn on this one. They're both very weird. Zuckerberg, if we use the criteria that we used before, Zuckerberg is eliminated because yes, he's weird, but he's famous, and we allow famous people to be weird. We just do. Look at Elon Musk. Look at Jeff Bezos. If you were rich enough and famous enough, you can do basically whatever you want. We don't care. As long as we can snap a picture of you, like when you're walking out of the restaurant for dinner, that's our payment. We're good with you doing whatever you want, as long as you let us, worship you. And that makes us the weird in the end, doesn't it? But I don't want to apply that logic because I think, and I genuinely mean this, if I had to hang out for a day with Mark Zuckerberg or troupe, are they called a troupe? A troupe, we'll use troupe of amateur YouTube magicians, I'd probably have more fun with the YouTube magicians. I'm sure I'd get nice things. I would probably see some weird secret society and maybe an alternate universe if I hung out with Zuckerberg, because I don't know what he's got going on over there in his little shop of horrors, the Facebook HQ. But I'm going to say that Zuckerberg is, and for that reason, I'm going to say that he's weirder. He's number one seed, again, for a reason. He's weirder than the amateur magicians. They're just trying to make content like everybody else. They just picked a very strange way to do it. But Zuckerberg doesn't need to do what he's doing. He doesn't need to even publicly be seen anymore. He could just live his life quietly, and he's refusing to do that because he's such a weird man. He really wants to create the universe again. He lives in the universe, but he doesn't like this one. He wants to create a new universe
where he's filthy
and that's weird.
rich
That's a weird thing to want to do.
Where he's
That's a weird thing to want to
filthy
do,
rich
is to
and
build
has
a new universe.
yeah, just make it a new universe. I will say, probably my number one pick, it would be the Zuckerberg versus Disney adult battle, and I'm picking the most extreme examples. Disney adults. I'm still gonna pick Disney adults as the weirder. Like if someone who truly drops down everything and is obsessed with child content, and they take it to another level. I'm saying for those who actually do voluntarily choose the Disney bounding, or
I don't think there's enough there. I don't think there's enough there to justify. Yes, I mean, if you twist the Disney adult category to its absolute deepest, darkest spot, if you make it dirty and you make it grimy and you make it horrible, then yes, of course. But I don't think that's a fair definition of a Disney adult. I think that there are people who are alive right now who are not at all how you're describing, who would call themselves or be called as a Disney adult. I do believe that. I believe that the definition you're using is too narrow, and that there's people in that tent that you're excluding. And I'm glad you're excluding them, and I hope they know that they're being excluded from the weird perversion of the Disney adult that you have being stranger than Mark Zuckerberg, who's literally trying to recreate the universe on Earth. He's decided he wants his own planet where he's in charge. That's the weirdest thing anybody could want. That is way weirder than wanting to go spend a weekend with Goofy on a fucking boat. Okay? Way weirder. But that being said,
or have the Mickey Mouse tattoo.
Again, that being said, I'm not picking Zuckerberg either. In my scenario, I am picking the moderators. And I'm picking the moderators because
they were a 12 seed in this bracket, so
I know they are my Wichita State from like 2010 or whenever that was. The reason, which is like the last March Madness I remember. The reason I'm picking them is because you have, again, at this point in your life, you have found the internet. You have found something obscure that you enjoy and have partaken in it. And then you have agreed to distribute it to strangers across the internet. You do this for free. You do not work for Reddit. You are not compensated in any way. So you just spend your free time helping strangers see something weird so that they can get their rocks off. To me, at least Zuckerberg's actual insanity, and that's the difference. Yeah, he's weird, but he's weird because he's insane.
Yeah.
Like
and
he's like Elon
filthy
Musk.
rich.
Like you could put Elon Musk in here too. By the way, you could interchangeably use Zuckerberg and Elon Musk for pretty much everything I was saying, minus the whole universe bit. But they are insane people, and that's why they're weird. These people who are on the internet here are presumably not insane. They're presumably very healthy individuals, and they just decided to do this of sound mind and body. They weren't forced. They don't have anything wrong with them. They're like, this is just something I want to do. And I think that that's super weird. Not that they're seeing it, but that they're administering it and helping others see it. Like a weird internet Sherpa into a niche category. So that's why I'm picking, again, big shocks. It's a close game. It's double overtime. The metaverse will never not be weird. None of it will never not be weird. Did you see that picture of him on that surfboard where he's completely white for some reason, like whiter than me, and that's really hard to do. Uh, so I'm not saying it's not close, but I am saying that at the end of the day, at least we can chalk up Zuckerberg to being a mad genius. But these other people are though that everyday folks, and that is just a little bit weirder to me.
Well, hey, whatever you have to do to keep your life interesting, it's none of our business what you do, even if it is insane and strange. Don't forget, they should have added the top weirdo people who think the Jets will ever change.
Yeah.
Were you about to say
Be
something?
clear, I didn't call all of these people insane. I just called Mark Zuckerberg insane. I want that to be clear. If you are one of these people, you have a weird hobby, and it's strange, and that's why we're talking about it, because it's just kind of funny. Only one of the people was insane that we discussed. Maybe 1.5. We'll have to. The jury's still on Jared Leto, but none of these other people are insane. Just the man who's trying to build space and time.
Hey, gotta change this world one way or the other. Let's switch it out to other things, Ryan. It's the holiday season right now. It is, a little more normal than last holiday season with the pandemic and everything. And though, we still have a ways to go till that is all past us and we have more control now with the Omicron variant making some noise in South Africa, which we hopefully the great people of science will take care of, and we'll continue to get boosters and vaccines. But like I said, the holiday season now, Ryan, this is going to be your last ever holiday season where you will not be married. Yeah. Next holiday season, you'll be a married man. How do you feel about that?
Yeah.
Is that bizarre, or is it just another thing?
It's kind of just another thing. I mean, yeah, we talk about it every once in a while. Like we'll get to a landmark of some kind. What was weird was a couple weeks ago, we had, I guess we'd sound like we didn't have it. We had what was our anniversary from when we started like dating.
Yeah.
And it's weird because you don't celebrate that right away. That you're almost like a year or two in before you even think about that date again. But obviously at this point we think about it every year. We usually just go to dinner. It's nothing big. We don't do like actual anniversary stuff. But it's a different date than the wedding. And so we were like, this is our last anniversary on this day.
It'll be your true anniversary.
Be a new, obviously it'll be a different thing. And so this day that we have celebrated now for the last few years doesn't mean anything next year. So something, you do something special every day for like 4 years, or every annually for like 4 years, and then next year it'll be a regular old Tuesday or whatever, because it won't matter like that. But the other stuff like the holidays, like, well, we've been celebrating that together anyway. We both celebrate the same holidays. I've been to her house, she's been to mine. Obviously we live together, so that's not all that surprising, but we've celebrated holidays with each other's families before, so that doesn't change too much because nothing is changing other than, I guess, a title, right?
And tax benefits.
You're married. Yes, and tax benefits.
Another reason to pay attention in the election.
Yes, other than tax benefits, nothing else changes there. So I would say for that reason, I'm not particularly, I don't think too much about that. But we did think about it on our anniversary because that is technically the last anniversary that we have on that day.
Merry Christmas. And will you be having any Disney themes at your wedding?
Disney themes? I don't know what that means, but
is there going to be anything Disney added? Will there be a Disney song?
No.
Will there be a Disney honeymoon stop? You go there for a day, a part of your honeymoon. You just show up at Disney. So I'm a Disney adult now.
No, I know Melissa's never been to Disney.
Oh, well, really?
So, I mean, someday might be fun, right? Like I said, especially since she's literally never been. But
that's cool. I mean, we're gonna get so many Disney adults mad at me.
Not something we're immediately planning. I'm not gonna get any Disney adults. I mean, I said it was ridiculous they were even in the competition. That's not true. I didn't say that.
Hey,
I did say that it was a normal. I said being obsessed with anything is weird, but there's a way to be obsessed with Disney that's not particularly strange. You're the one who started equating it with all sorts of nefarious.
Hey, I was reading some sources from the internet who cited sources too.
You cited sources, but you cited sources in the way, some podcasters cite medical sources. I'll just put it that way. So you didn't cite sources. You just read something, which is different than citing sources.
Joe Rogan
I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything.
Anyways, yeah. So, what were we even talking about before? Oh yeah, holiday season. Man, you want to know one thing I've never done?
Anything.
What?
What's up? I said you can't prove anything. But then I say, what's up?
I never had eggnog before in my life. I've never had a sip of that thing. I'm not
physically not true.
You're
what? You're a couple months older than me too. Like, no way.
I've never had it.
Never one.
I can't tell you what eggnog tastes
because no one bought it, or because you just refused to drink it.
No, we really didn't have it in the house. We didn't have it in the house.
So no one in your family drinks eggnog at all.
They probably do, and they just didn't pressure me. Is it alcoholic? Is it an alcoholic
drink? You can
drink?
make it alcoholic. It doesn't need to be.
So what do you only drink it with alcohol? You only drink eggnog during the holiday season mostly?
Yeah, I don't even know if you can get it outside the holiday season.
Yeah, I was watching an old clip. I've been into this new YouTuber called Cooking with Babish. I sent you some of this stuff. The guy who creates the food. I didn't really. This dude has 9 million YouTube subscribers. Did you hear of him before I sent you those clips?
You started videos now.
Yeah, 10 million subscribers, and he's a cooking channel. He's expanded to more things, but his main niche was making TV, movie, or video game dishes in real life. And I got into it because I was looking at more cocktail videos, and he did cocktails from Mad Men, even though they're all classic anyways, but still, that's how I got into it. And he needed a turkey in March, and he had to special order it. It took him
turkey. You can't get a full turkey in March.
Yeah, well, unless you he had to call probably had his connections, and he got
maybe now if you order it this year, it'll be in by March. That's the supply chain.
Oh boy, that's for the end of the year podcast there. But anyways, no eggnog, and I will have it. My goal this holiday season has eggnog for the first time.
But I mean, that's an easy goal. I feel like you should have a second one on there.
I could do that right after this podcast.
Beverage. Yeah, I have one goal this year to drink a delicious beverage.
what a concept. And
I mean, you know what? If you set the bar there, you're gonna meet it.
You know, another thing.
And that's how you build momentum.
I've never seen a Christmas Story before with the BB gun and everything. I've never actually seen the movie.
Oh, okay. I was in that.
Were?
Obviously not the original movie.
Oh.
In Crystal
Theater?
The 80s. No. So that was actually the one year I didn't do Crystal Theater. I was in a show at Crystal Theater. Didn't get a great role, which whatever happens. And then there Wilton Play Shop. So it's a theater in Wilton was putting it on.
and you've never seen the show, so I'm going to use words now that won't make any sense to you. There's a character. His name's Scut Farkas. He's the bully. He wears the hat. He's got the yellow eyes, which they did not give me yellow eyes, by the way. And so what they did was they changed the script. So their options were to give me yellow contacts, which I said I would try. I mean, I'd never had to wear contacts for a show before. Or if not, they could just change the script to say blue eyes instead of yellow eyes, and that was way easier. So they just changed the line from his beady yellow eyes to his beady blue eyes, and that was that. So I got to keep my eyes. Oh yeah, he's the bully in the story, and so he's the one who makes him lick the pole, which is like an iconic scene.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Scene.
So that was me. Scott Farkas. Yeah.
Ooh, what a moment! I wish I saw it
because I'd only ever done like Crystal Theater, right? So I'd only ever been in shows with just kids because it's a children's theater. This was not that. The only reason that I was in this is because the show they were doing required kids. It was straight up community, like it was community theater, but it was a straight up theater. Like there were adults in the show who were playing the adults, and then there were other kids in the cast who were playing the kids. And the show got canceled, and then the other I'm not from Wilton, so I didn't even know any of this until I got there. The other Scut Farkas had to back out. I don't know. Probably he got too old.
Creative differences.
Creative differences. Who knows? And so I had to show up, and I had to audition in the parking lot for there's a producer and a director for this show. And they didn't have a key because the building manager wasn't there. And so it was me, the kid who was playing the lead, Ralphie. And it was, of course, I mean, I did like a quick little read, right? But then one of the more iconic scenes is when Ralphie finally says enough with you, puts me in my place. And so we had to do that scene, or they wanted to try that scene. And so we did, and I let the kid actually tackle me, which they really like.
Brilliant.
And so me and this kid just fought in the parking lot, and then I got cast in a role. That was essentially what happened. It was also one of the only auditions my dad took me on, because my mom obviously took me on a lot of my auditions, but she couldn't. So my dad took me on this audition. So my dad, who had not really seen me perform outside of like Crystal Theater, the actual shows, had never seen me audition, had never seen me prepping for a role ever. He showed up, and they were like, "Yeah, just you two fight, and if it looks good, we'll do So my dad's like, "What is this he's trying to do?"
This is what
my dad's like, does he fight the people at all? Is it like Mortal Kombat? If he pins him, does he get the role?
That's how they do WWE tryouts.
Yeah, just
fight in the parking
pin each
lot.
other, and if you win it, you get a contract. But yeah.
What a year. You made it, Ryan. I know I advertised it at first, but just because the card was so weak and didn't seem any buzz, we just decided to skip the Survivor Series pod, and we'll do it again for Royal Rumble. But man, all I could say for WWE, I hope it's going to be an interesting 2022 for both WWE and AEW.
I think so too. AEW's without one of its biggest stars, but as weird as it is, it couldn't have happened at a better time.
And who's that star? Kenny Omega, right?
Well, him too, actually. But no, I was speaking about Jon Moxley. But they literally, at the same time they lost their first ever, not that he was a true blue good guy, but he was their first hero was Jon Moxley. Yeah. He came in as a good guy. He was the hero. He beat Jericho, and he held the title for a while. So he was their top hero for a very long time, and he's unfortunately dealing with his own personal struggles right now. So he's out indefinitely, probably. But at literally the week that all happened, they invented the biggest hero in professional wrestling. With Hangman Adam Page. So
yeah, see, people with the last name Page.
cousin Adam, as we call him around our household. He's not my cousin, but yeah. So it actually worked out. Not nicely. That's not the right way to put it, because there's a lot wrapped into that. But I think they'll be okay. They have their new hero, and everyone's really excited about it. And they've got plenty of bad guys kicking around. So I don't think they'll have to worry too much about that.
Yep. And like I said, I'm trying my best to catch up with AEW. We mixed those AEW WWE pods in 2022. But assuming Mr. Roman Reigns doesn't leave.
Oh, he's not going anywhere. That was just people, and I'm really upset with the second video you sent me, because the first one is one that I know doesn't know what they're doing. So because he said a line on TV in a scripted promo, he said words written by someone else. When you sent me that first article, I expected that from them. I did not expect the second group of people to take that and then run it as justification.
Wrestle
There
talk.
isn't a world where that's going to happen. At least not within the next 5 years.
Yeah, like
I mean, he gets more famous. People don't know who he is, and you could do this. Put this on your Twitter. Who's Roman Reigns? Don't give him any context.
Just say
who's Roman Reigns, and then just for control, say who's John Cena, or who is Dwayne Johnson. Don't even say The Rock. Say Dwayne Johnson. Let's use only names. Nobody knows who Roman Reigns is. Nobody.
And not Joe.
I mean, I do, and you do, but
and not his real name, Joe. I think it's like
or something to that effect. Yeah.
I don't want to botch it bad, but he has a very unique name. Let me try.
His name is Joe.
Oh, I was reading his government name, Lady Joseph Anoy. You're right. Anyways, Roman Reigns is Joe Anoy.
He said his name was Joe Anoy or something like that. Yeah.
But don't put that
was one of his wrestling names, so maybe that is his full name, Leati Joseph Anoa'i.
But don't put that in the Twitter poll, because then nobody will know that. Not even wrestling fans will know.
Honestly, it'll be the same number of people.
But yes, Roman Reigns. Rumors about him leaving for Hollywood after ambiguous, just doing regular press. Led to that, and Wrestle Talk believed it was. Yeah, I don't think so.
I believe it. It was. I hate to say this because I like Wrestle Talk. It was clickbait.
Hey, they got me
to get people to click on the video.
They clickbait. Yeah, they get me all the time.
Did you listen to it or no?
I did not listen to that portion. No, but I listened to.
I bet you if you listen. I bet you. I didn't listen to it, but I bet you if you listen to it, they'll outright say it's not going to happen. And
they do that a lot.
They've done it a few times. Yeah, they've done it a few times. They'll be like, "Here's a fun rumor. It's totally not true, but we knew that you click on it if we put it in the title." And they've basically admitted that a couple times. So I'm not surprised. A little disappointed maybe, but no, not going anywhere. No, I wouldn't be worried about it if you're a fan.
Mm-hmm. So Ryan, one last story before we wrap things off for today. I have a story for you. Unless, do you have any stories you want to share before I give this one?
No, I think we can head into this last little wrap up here.
Gotcha. Okay, so this is actually fascinating, Ryan. And here it is. According to Finder.com, and they did some polls. Okay. Mm-hmm. They said collectively, Americans spend $21.6 billion on what, Ryan, in the past year? What do you think Americans collectively spend $21 billion on?
Alcohol?
Close.
I don't know. Weed?
Americans spend $21.6 billion on drunk purchases. That's actually 51.80% down from last year's 44.9 billion. This year, we are more responsible drinking.
Yeah. Well, that's because last year everybody was stuck inside.
Yes.
Nobody had to wake up for anything.
But yes, this year, the first year back in a relatively normal society, whoever says the relatively, we spent $21 billion on drunk spending. Ryan, may I ask you, have you ever partaken in a purchase of something after drinking a little too much? Because I have.
No, I've not.
So you don't contribute to this poll?
No. I know Melissa has. She'll buy some shoes or whatever if she's had too much to drink, but no. One time I was going to make a purchase, and then we went out, and then I did buy it while I was at the bar. So I guess in a way that's a weird middle ground, because it wasn't like it was something I didn't want or didn't know I wanted that I found. I was like, I had a cart and I put it in the cart, and then we ended up just going out kind of last minute. I never actually purchased it, so I went to my phone and saw it was in my cart, and I was like, oh, and I just bought it, because I was gonna buy it anyway. So I don't think it's really a drunk purchase, but I also for sure could have waited till the next day. I didn't have to do it while sitting at a bar. But I was like, oh, I got to do this. So I guess in a way, it was just a T-shirt. But other than that, no.
I'm trying. I think I drunk purchased one thing this year, but I know normally drunk.
I mean, I'll say that all of my drinks after like the first two are probably close to drunk purchases. No one ever needs more than like 2 or 3, and I usually exceed that number with great pace. So
yeah,
those might count.
I definitely drunk purchase buying more alcohol, I guess.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
Oh, I drunk purchased. So I had a dent in my car, and to replace it, for those who don't know, I wrote Productive Conversations podcast on the bumper to hide the the little dent, which just looks so awful and just so tacky. So I drunk purchased a big sticker with the Knicks logo. I said this will be easier to hide. And you know what I have? It was as big as my hand. I bought a sticker that I thought was going to save my bumper problems, only to have one that's now on my laptop because, well, might as well use it. I know somebody who wants...
remember the Productive Conversation sticker, though. I do remember that.
I think the more wealthy you get, the more drunk. I feel like you kind of have a guard to yourself if you need to, not do eccentric purchases like that.
Yeah, if you need your money for like rent or groceries, yeah, you buy less stuff when you're drunk. If you need that money for, food,
yeah,
I would agree.
I hear one of my radio hosts said he drunk purchased a Viking sweater that he ordered in April that still hasn't showed up yet because of supply chain issues.
Look at that, 2 supply chain references. Mine was a little bit funnier than yours, but that's okay.
Well, we could say the supply chains issues isn't funny in general, but hey, we'll see how long it lasts.
That's a good point too.
Very serious, man.
Some would say we were being insensitive. I think they'd be wrong.
But yeah, it's a very great 60-minute story on that from a couple weeks ago for anyone who wants to tune in.
That is interesting. I don't know how they got that information, like how they conducted that poll, or more importantly, why they conducted that poll. But I believe it. I'm not surprised. Like I said, I thought alcohol itself was going to be the answer. So,
but it just contributes it. Yeah, I think we all definitely the most drug purchases we've had. Mostly it's just buying more alcohol while you're at the bar. Oh, let's have another and another. Oh no, I'm screwed.
One more and we'll all go.
But yeah, Ryan, pleasure as always. We talked about...
Yes, pleasure to be here.
We confirmed who's the biggest weirdos in the world, thanks to Mark Zuckerberg and Reddit moderators.
We're technically split, but
but we at least let it out on our opinions for it. I think Disney adults are the weirdest people. You think Mark Zuckerberg. We both agree niche Reddit porn moderators need other hobbies.
Way around, yeah.
Or yeah. The people who are in charge of porn on Reddit. And
man, yeah. I'm not gonna be nice anymore. Those ones.
And then talks of things within this Cantor, and then the Beatles Doc, the holiday season. We hit it all over the place. So anything else you want to say, Ryan, before we sign off?
No, other than listen to the Productive Conversations podcast. I know in a few weeks here coming up, we'll probably have another special episode, another kind of TweetCap callback from last year. So that'll be exciting.
Year interview for sure.
Other than that.
And, we're definitely gonna keep these marks sent for the masses in the future. And like I said, Ryan, pleasure as always. Thank you so much, and I'll see you really soon. Now let's enjoy this holiday season, and I'll see you in a few weeks on this show
Thanks,
and
Matt.
talk to you beforehand in general.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll talk. But yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Enjoy the holidays.
Thank you, Ryan. Happy holidays to you. Happy Hanukkah to all those who celebrate, especially people of the Jewish faith. And yeah, we'll see you all very, very soon. Ryan Page, everybody.